Welcome to
Welcome to
Forgotten
Forgotten
Jelly.
Jelly.
I'm Lucas.
I'm Owen, and this is our first pilot test episode of Forgotten Jelly. Lucas and I are friends since pre-K. We've grown up together, and now we live in other states. But Lucas is the funniest guy I know. He's the smartest guy I know. He reads a book a week. He's a pilot. He's an engineer, and I always enjoy my conversations with him. We're always laughing over the phone, and so I thought it would be really fun to start recording our conversations and seeing what kind of funny little things pop up.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Been friends since pre-K. I would call Owen the most interesting man in the world. He's lived in several different countries. Undergrad, he did a study abroad in Costa Rica. He lived in Mexico, and now he lives in San Diego. He's a teacher. He's an incredible surfer. He can ride the waves like no one I've seen.
Thanks, Lucas. So the what we're thinking for the format is bringing up curious questions or funny moments that we have throughout the week, writing them down, and then we share them with each other and try to get the other person's reaction or their thoughts on whatever question we were wondering. So, Lucas, you want to start us off with your
Yeah,
first
yeah.
question or your first
Go
thing that
right ahead.
happened
Go
this
right
last
ahead.
week?
This last week, I was just thinking, like, you're a man of science, just like me. And the facts aren't there for Bigfoot yet, showing us that Bigfoot's real. But I wanted to go off with that question. Do you believe in the foot,
Do I believe in the foot?
Bigfoot? The Bigfoot,
Uh,
yeah.
no, I don't believe in the foot. I think they're big animals in the woods, and there are probably people who are out and about and see a big animal. Actually, just yesterday I was surfing, and I believed in the Loch Ness monster for about 4 minutes. So when you surf, you normally stay in one little area, and I was surfing at a jetty, so you stay in one little area of the jetty, like where the boats come in and out, um, and the waves kind of hit that one area. So normally, if you're surfing at a spot like that, you're not going to go anywhere really too far away from it because there's no point because the waves don't break. But I saw in the distance, it was foggy yesterday, and I saw in the distance this like blob shape. And I've seen sunfishes before where they come up to do you know a sunfish? They come up to the top of the water
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
kind of like lie over and they're big. I've only seen brown ones. I don't know all the colors they are, but they're big and they just kind of lie there and they're really cool creatures. And so I've seen them and I'm like, "Oh, hey, that's a sunfish, I think." But I'm like, "It looks a little different." And I started paddling towards it. So I leave the surf break, which is weird and people are kind of like, "Where are you going?" Like there's no waves where you're going. But then they looked and they see this big like thing bobbing up and down. Like it's too big to be a sunfish. And as it's maybe about 100 or 200 yards away. And as I'm about halfway there, I look at the thing and it's this like it looks like the head of the Loch Ness monster. It's massive and it's just kind of moving up and down. And for a second, I sat on my board and I just stopped paddling. Like, is this thing gonna eat me? And like, I kind of believed in a big monster for a second. It just looked like the head and the body would be 30 or 40 feet wide. But I didn't. I didn't stop there. I kept paddling, and then I see it was like this bush that had it kind of like tumbleweed. It was like this big bush that had somehow been cleared and wound up in the ocean. But from a certain angle, it looked like the head of something. And then as you get closer, you make out the details. So I think Bigfoot is the same kind of thing, where it's there could be shapes that appear in the woods, or like how I saw yesterday surfing, like these shapes that make you think if you're maybe on if you're not close enough to it, then
Mhm.
it's it's something different. But no, I don't believe in Bigfoot. Do you believe in Bigfoot?
A part of me does. I would say 90% of me does. I think it could be like a symbiotic kind of relationship. These inexperienced campers and people in the woods, feeding Bigfoot. But it's kind of funny. We don't have like any pictures of him, only with like a Nintendo DS type quality.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of like anecdotal stories of people that have come across Bigfoot. And I think
And
I told you this one before, but I have some family in Montana and they used to they were old cowboys and they would actually have clients that would go horseback riding with them. So they had all these colts and horses. And one time they were riding and they saw Bigfoot riding a horse. I think I told you that. Bigfoot was on horseback. They saw him one day. And then later that night, when they were setting up camp, they had all the horses around in the circle and whatnot, and they're sleeping in their tents. And they heard the most gut wrenching screech ever. And the horses went everywhere. And the tents got caught in the fire. The tents were going on fire, and that's just one of the stories too. And there's plenty of people, the guys that I work with, that say that they've seen some Squatch before.
It's
Like
gotten a little squatchy.
a little squatchy, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this one story, my friend at work, he was camping, and like a 40-inch diameter tree just came crashing down on their tent. The only explanation is Bigfoot for him. So there's like a lack of deductive reasoning.
Yeah.
Like a lot
Yeah.
of people I've seen that claim that Bigfoot's real. I feel like some of these guys, you can convince them about anything.
Yeah.
As long as you have them on their side, they can kind of argue anything and they would
Yeah.
believe it. I
Yeah.
could tell them that Fisher cats, they like coming inside, opening the fridge, and they go for the cheese. And he would go, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's true. I've seen it myself. Oh yeah."
Yeah.
As long as you make it sound believable,
Yeah, say it with a
they
straight
could.
voice. No, that's funny.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
I was gonna say the same thing. There's a lack of deductive reasoning
yeah.
where there's so many things that could cause a tree to fall, but the first explanation is
Is
Bigfoot. And it's
Squatch.
kind of it's
Yeah,
kind of the
yeah.
most fun. Getting a little
I,
squatch and
I
getting
think that's what it is.
a
Yeah,
whiff of squatch in the woods. That's pretty nice.
definitely the most fun. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's funny trying to like put science into these things that are so far fetched. And like the show Finding Bigfoot back
Hmm.
in the day,
Yeah.
they had what they called Squatch facts. So in one episode, they were standing on top of a cliff and like pushing boulders and rocks down. And they said, "Oh yeah, rock hits the Squatch in the head, he'll be yelling. We'll know exactly where he is." And the camera guy is just kind of sitting there like, "What am I doing?" And they call it a Squatch fact. They would. In another
Uh,
episode, they put a cake in the woods. The show, and they said, "Oh yeah, Squatch fact 102. Squatch would be come here, eat this cake, and it'll be gone tomorrow." I mean, I'm pretty sure if you leave a cake in the woods, something's going to eat it. They try to make these facts about Sasquatch that don't even exist. So
God,
yeah,
that's funny. No, I think it's true. Following a lack of deductive reasoning and including science into these like mythical ideas is a funny combination. Uh, all right. My first curiosity was the statistics on your life. What, like a video game will tell you, you've played this many hours, your character has this many points earned, they've traveled this far, or they've fought with this many monsters, or if it's like a sports game, you've had this many touchdowns. All of those really meticulous and detailed statistics are always interesting to look at. They're kind of funny, like, oh, like it's I've been having this outcome in the game, like this percent of the time. And I started thinking, what if there were statistics, just these magical wand statistics on your life? There'd be, I mean, if you could know any of the stats about your life, what would you want to know? Like, I would want to know how many waves I've caught and the average duration of each wave, and how many peanut butter and jellies I've eaten, and how many minutes I've taught in front of my students throughout the years. And there's just a million statistics I'd want to know if I could wave that magic wand. What are some stats you would want to know?
probably like you, like the stuff at work with the kids. But for me, it'd be like amount of time spent working on this one machine or this one part, or the amount of time spent in the bathrooms at work. Just to
Yeah.
kind of know that statistic and kind of
Yeah.
feel bad for yourself there. Maybe like time spent at red lights. Kind of see how long you spend in traffic in your life, or I'd say like amount of watermelons eaten, or just like
Yeah.
specific foods in your life to get
And
those statistics. Yeah.
what food would be like, what's the food you've eaten the most? Like, is it pasta? Is it a base food like a potato? Or
Yeah.
are you crushing something a little different? Or
Probably
is it
grains of rice, right? Grains
grains
of
of rice?
rice would be like the most popular like, worldwide.
But then it's
Like how
tricky, like how do you quantify it? So is it like by weight or is it by total count? Like, are you counting the number of spaghetti strands or are you counting like the individual grain of rice? You know, I
I'd
think
be
by
more interested in the grain.
I'd be more interested
Yeah,
in the weight
yeah.
because it tells
Ah,
you which one
okay.
did you consume more of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Like weight of food eaten.
Weight of total
Yeah,
food
that
eaten.
total
Yeah.
food eaten. I think that'd be really cool. Or there's like a stat that humans we produce like a swimming pool of saliva in our
I've
lives.
seen that. It
Like
could be one of those Bigfoot statistics
how
that's
do
just
yeah,
not
yeah.
true,
Like
but
how do you find that?
yeah.
You know,
Well, I think you
some
could
of
do I think you
yeah,
just could, in one day or 1 hour, you could see how much saliva is produced and multiply it out for the average
yeah.
lifespan.
You
That's
remember
my
like in,
guess.
in in science class in like elementary school when like they teach us mass cannot be created or destroyed.
Yeah,
You remember like
yeah.
that law? Like the saliva thing always kind of
Thermodynamics.
like threw me off. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
how do we make that, right? When you're a middle school kid,
A
like, how do
hole in
how do
the
you even make that?
thermodynamics
Yeah,
law.
right.
Yeah.
I thought I like broke the closed cycle system.
Yeah.
Humans, I don't know. Thought I had a groundbreaking discovery. Threw a wrench in the science there.
Oh God. How about statistics for people you've spent time with? Like who have you spent the most time with and how many minutes is it? What percent of your life is it? You know, that kind of thing. You could look at
Yeah,
like your friends and see like, oh, I've spent 10% more time with this friend than this other
yeah,
friend
yeah.
or things like that. I don't know.
And you could see like trends
Yeah,
of
you
like
could look at trends.
when you're seeing them and like what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think though a lot of these like gadgets are doing a good job of trying to incorporate the data in our lives. Like the fitness watches and even like sleep score
I was
and
just gonna
stuff.
say sleep score.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, sleep score.
yep, absolutely. I love using nose strips. I was born 6 weeks early. Excuse me, I was born 6 weeks early. And so when you're born a preemie, some things don't develop. And for me, it was like airway stuff that didn't develop fully. And so my nose, if you can see it here, whenever I breathe in, it just clamps itself unless I use muscles to keep it open. But at
Mm-hmm.
night, I can't use those muscles to keep it open. So I always, always, always wear a nose strip. So for years and years, I've worn a nose strip every night, which speaking of statistics, that cost adds up. It's like 20 cents a nose
Mm-hmm.
strip. So if you're doing that year after year, it's a little bit of a cost, but it's fine. I need it to sleep well. And so I've been on the no strip train for a long time, but my friends and people I spend time with will see me wearing these no strips going to bed or getting up in the morning, and they look a little goofy. And they are naturally curious about it and ask me, hey, eventually they ask, can I try one? And speaking of the sleep score, every single time somebody tries a nose strip and they apply it properly, removing the oils first and putting it in the right position, their sleep scores will go up like 10 points. They'll be like, I'm normally a
Mm-hmm.
75, but I was an 86 last night. So I agree, the sleep score is really cool and nose strips are really cool. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, those are great stats. Any other stats or move on?
Oh man, I can't think of it.
Yeah, well,
But
I'm sure we'll think of more, but
yeah.
like everything could be a statistic, and so I like
Hmm.
how many days worked, what percent of that time were you actually working? Like I think it's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's another one? What do you got?
I'd say good energy. So in like the sphere of Casey Means, I've told you about her before, right? RFK's pick for Surgeon General.
Yeah, yeah.
And she has a book called Good Energy. And essentially, she just preaches, simple things, kind of common sense, like eating well, exercise, going outside, socializing, getting rid of bad habits and everything. And this actually kind of ties into your last point. But imagine if we went off like biological age in our society and in life. And biological age is pretty much like a combination of all these biofactors that you can get from your blood, like your kidney function, your heart function, how good your cells are repairing them. And it takes essentially the age, like all those cells, and it gives you a total. So, for example, me and my two coworkers at work, we get our blood taken every year, and we just got it done. It's kind of like a competition between us, like who is younger than our calendar age. And I got 6 years. My two coworkers got 8 years. So I'm a little bit older than what they technically are. But I was thinking like a world that we go off of biological age. Like say your calendar age is 23
Yeah.
and your biological age is 19. Like how well your cells are working, you
So
pretty
you
much
if
can't go to a bar,
yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're too healthy. Just kind of like a weird thing, right?
Yeah, there'd be these sticky cutoff points where before, let's say 16, you would have kids trying to be older. Really, I think until 21, you would have kids like doing awful things to their body to try to
Hmm.
make their biological age older and make their cells deteriorate quicker. Because they'd want to be able to drive at 16 and they'd want to be able to vote at 18 and drink alcohol at 21. And then the minute someone turns 21 or 22 in that range, then I think they're going to start doing what they can to keep their
Hmm.
biological age lower, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of what I was doing. Like, so yeah, we're 25 and I got 19 for my age. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let's try to like just keep it in that 21-year age for a while. But yeah, that's kind of a funny point you brought up. Like if you're 14 and you're like trying to go to these bars and stuff, you just, like crank some cigarettes and beer,
Yeah.
like try to get up to that 21 age. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it
no,
also like,
it's a fun
go ahead.
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. One point I had like with sin and demerit goods, like alcohol, cigarettes,
Yeah.
if we had like a certain like monitor for people and say if you're like X amount of years over your age, you're not able to buy these goods.
Yeah.
That's just something I was thinking about in the future, right? It's kind of a scary thought actually, but it
Yeah.
was
It's
just
like
a
overreach.
curious.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. It kind of goes in the realm of like the brain chips, that Elon's working on. It's a scary thought more than curious, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No, that's
eh,
that's fun. That's a good point. All right. Next one. How many acronyms does your profession have?
oh my God, in
So I'm
aerospace.
So
Oh,
I'm a
go ahead.
teacher
Yeah.
in elementary education. You're an engineer in aerospace engineering, and we both have many acronyms, I'm sure. And I think every career, every job has an over under on 3 and 4 letter acronyms in the 50s or 60s or 70s. There are so many acronyms. In education, there's MTSS, IEP, 504, UBDL, ELA, ELD, EL, MAP, NWEA. So many. And when you're
Mhm.
talking with teachers or the principal or whatever, you're throwing these back and forth like a regular word the. It's so common. And I was joking around with a teacher friend and we were like, there's at least 30 or 40 of these acronyms we use pretty regularly. And I was wondering, what do you think it is in your area of aerospace? And then what profession do you think has the most acronyms?
And I'd say over 500. I'd take the over on 500 acronyms. Yeah,
Whoa,
because like
what are some
every.
examples? Give me a few.
So I'm an RD. I work with PEs. We have to get our stuff reviewed by QAs. And then we also have like MFGs on the floor, OPRs on the floor, ISPs, inspectors on the floor. So there's got to be 500. Now I would definitely say like aerospace or aviation in general. I feel like has the most acronyms.
Yeah.
Pilots too. In the world of piloting, so many acronyms. It's almost like a dialect that we people talk about. And I had a meeting for the first time with this one different team this week, and it was like we're talking from someone like overseas. It was a different dialect, and I was just looking at my other coworkers like, do you have any idea like what these acronyms are? I'd say over 500 for sure in
Wow.
aerospace.
So you were talking with another team that also does aerospace, but they had different acronyms and you couldn't understand each other with stuff, you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
there's a language barrier in aerospace with the acronyms
Yeah, I know.
for
And
sure.
that makes sense. I figured, teachers have a lot, but not nearly as many as some careers. I thought military as well might have a lot of acronyms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Medicine has a lot of acronyms too. I wonder, like,
Hmm.
if you're a surgeon, all of the different device names and all of the different procedure and all of, like even within your body, like some things are shortened. And I imagine that there are a lot of acronyms.
Yeah.
But
It's the fun.
aerospace could definitely be up there. I thought of you with this question I had, which is why I wanted to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's up there. I feel like pharmaceutical for sure. Like you said,
Pharmaceutical
I'm
would
in the
be a
medical
ton.
world too.
But yeah, and yeah, I think that makes sense. And doctors also have to know all of those acronyms too. So there's a lot of professions that have a lot of acronyms. I wonder
Hmm.
what professions have the least amount of acronyms. I was thinking maybe in high school I worked in restaurants a little bit, and I was thinking maybe like the service industry. There's not very many acronyms. It's more about like human interaction. Um, what other careers do you think don't really have acronyms?
I would honestly say like teachers, like English teachers, or
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be English,
when
but any sort of language teachers, I would
when
say,
you
right?
are no, I think it makes sense when you're with your students, you're not using many acronyms. The acronyms come in education on the back end. When
Hmm.
you're talking with other teachers about curriculum planning and about all the special support meetings for students, and even like RTI, like a student would never hear the acronym RTI. It stands for response to intervention, and these are the extra supports in place that follow MTSS supports, which is multi-tiered support system, for tier one, tier two, tier three, which is like if a student needs support, are they getting individual support? Are they getting group support? Are they getting pulled out of class? So these are all things teachers have in the background. And it might be lower than a lot of professions, but I think it's in the 50 range, maybe 40 range of acronyms we have. But the students in class wouldn't really hear those. Um, so I think I would put teachers in the middle of the pack of
Yeah.
acronyms. I don't
What
know.
if You should start calling your students acronyms, like their names, their
Just
initials.
S. No, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you do teacher observations, you do that. So sometimes your principal has to come in and observe, or you observe another teacher, and so you say S means students, SS, or sorry, S means student, SS means students, T means teacher. So we could just
Hmm.
start saying that and make
Yeah,
teaching
yeah, yeah.
quicker.
SCTs. I feel like that's like some of the most flattering compliments is when someone calls you just your initials, like your
Yeah.
acronyms, like J Dubs, O
J Dubs.
Dubs. I feel like that it's very flattering.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, yeah, they think I'm pretty cool. They don't know a lot about me. They just kind of know my name, but
Yeah.
they kind of put it into a cool nickname.
Yeah. No, that's
So,
fun. That's
okay, I want to talk about driving now. Driving, especially here in the United States, right? We don't have a great public transportation system like outside of three cities, three or four,
yeah.
and like people don't walk anymore. But driving's weird. So like 90% of us Americans do it like daily, and another statistic, 90% of us pick our nose, and another 90% have cell phones. So you got to think everybody on the road is either picking their nose or on their phone. That's actually something you said when we were teenagers. Like you look at people driving and like all of them are picking their nose or on
Yeah.
their phones. Yeah, it's
I
true.
remember that start
Yeah,
when we started
yeah,
driving in
yeah.
high school. I
Yeah.
remember we had the conversation and I was like, Lucas, everywhere I go, I see people picking their nose and on their phones. And when you look into the windows of cars going by, more often than not, over 50% of the
Hmm.
time, they're looking down or distracted in some
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it's true. It's very true. But you got to think of the other 10%. No car, no phone, no nose pick. They're just downstairs in the basement, just kind of doing nothing with the phone in their
Well,
car.
maybe they're not
But
doing nothing. Maybe they have a bike and
okay, yeah,
they're building an illustrious career
yeah.
and they're keeping their fingers out of their
And
nose.
they're very, very clean guy. Yeah, yeah. The bike and no nose pick. But
Maybe that 10% is split. They're split into
true,
two
true, true.
categories of high achievers and maybe those who stay in the basement more.
Or just liars. Yeah.
Or just or
Or they're
just
just
lie.
liars. Like they
Yeah.
don't drive, they don't phone. But driving is kind of funny, right? So I would say like in a lot of aspects in like life in general, we kind of rank each other. We just do it like as like humans and like monkeys and bonobos do
Pecking
it too.
order.
But
Yeah.
heck, yeah, exactly. But driving is just kind of ruthless, right? So
Yeah,
we're
there's
just
no
kind of like
ranking.
all equals, yeah, like on the road. Except if you have a lifted truck, then you're better than everybody else. But not. I had a truck one time, so I can't say
Yeah.
that. But it's kind of it's a free fall, right? And like sometimes though that like pecking order kind of meshes in when you're driving. Like for example, someone cuts you off and they have a bumper sticker that says like Cornell football
Yeah.
2021 or Cape Cod Tri winner
Yeah.
2022, and you kind of remember it's like, oh yeah, they're better at life than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, even their kid's an honor student at the middle school, smarter than me. But yeah, sometimes that like
Uh,
kind of the break of that structure, that pecking order, kind of goes into driving. But I had three scenarios I want to talk about with you. Did you have something to say
I
about
like it.
that?
I like the concept that we are all
Yeah,
equals on the road and going in the same
yeah, yeah,
direction. That's fun. Yeah.
yeah. Quality is found on 91 South in Hartford. It's true. It's true. But no, there's three things I want to talk about. One is say you are driving, you park, and you're not in a rush. How long is it acceptable to kind of just sit in your car, after you just kind of park,
It
right?
depends on
What
how
do you
sad
think?
you are. When I'm
How
a little
sad?
sad,
Yeah.
when I'm a little sad, I take those moments to sit in my car and just
Hmm.
take a second and breathe and maybe look at my phone for a second. And I like to sit in my car for a minute, 2 minutes
Yeah.
if I'm sad, if
Yeah.
something's
Yeah.
hard in life. But when I'm happy, I'm out of the car in like a nanosecond,
Oh
just
yeah.
ready for
Yeah.
the next thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, the acceptable quantity of time depends on my mood. How about you?
I would totally agree. If I'm really stressed out at work, I come home and I'm sad.
Just
Gotta give the brain a break and look at reels for 20 minutes in the car.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
right. And it's
this is
funny.
a confession. Reels
It
are
is.
addicting, and I don't know when it was, maybe a week or two ago, not that long ago. I had gotten back from work. It was the winter carnival. So the students, the teachers are there for like 13 hours. You're there forever, and then after work, there's like a downtime before the carnival starts. You're setting up stuff. You pack it up after, and they're long days. And I was tired, and I get back and I park next to the apartment I live in and I just kind of pulled up Reels. I think maybe someone had sent me something, so I clicked on it, and then my phone died 20 minutes later looking at Reels sitting in the parking lot. So it can happen.
Hmm.
It can be
Yeah.
longer than
Yeah.
a couple minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awkward too when someone pulls up right next to you. in like a car, like when you're parked and you kind of just look at them like this, and they look at you and they're surprised to see somebody in a parked car. It's like, yeah, I'm dealing with something real quick. Don't mind me. And they get out of their car right away, and you're like,
Yeah.
damn, they
Yeah.
have their life together,
Yeah. They're
Uh,
not sad
I
taking
f
5 minutes. And then you wonder, like,
no, yeah, I
what
just
do
kind of give them
people
a wave.
do? What do people do just alone in a parked car? It's not typically good things. Instagram Reels is the highest level of what you hope someone's
Yeah,
doing alone in a parked car for 20 minutes.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
for real,
Yeah.
for real. But I
Uh,
had a couple of real life driving scenarios I wanted to share
let's hear
because
'em.
it's hard to look on the internet for advice. It's hard to describe your specific driving issues. So I got one here. This is an intersection right next to my apartment. So you can see it right,
Okay.
bottom right. So I'm coming from work in the bottom right. So we got a couple cars here coming up. I hope it's not too confusing.
No,
But
no.
the bottom right, the blue one. So that's the left turning lane to turn, to the road and whatnot. And so we get the green light, and then the red car over there also gets the green light, but they have a yield. And is the car here, the blue one, supposed to go on the outside lane because the red car also wants to go there? But I've seen it where the blue cars, they go in both lanes. What is your take? Should blue stick to the outside lane,
Oh, that's a
or does
good
red?
question.
Yeah, because you have the yield, but there's nothing saying what lane the blue car has to go.
I think it makes sense what you're saying. The blue car, when you're going in this scenario from right to left, when you're going right to left, when you are in the right lane, that should be red because it's their most obvious close turning lane, and then that left lane going right to left should stay blue and remain open. What do you think?
I feel like blue has the ability to go in both lanes, and then
And red has to
because
yield.
yeah, exactly, that
Yeah, you're on a
yield.
green light. You for sure have the right of way compared to a stopped
Mhm.
car, even if they're making a right turn with a yield. Yeah, because they yield. You yield to
Yeah,
oncoming traffic. So that makes sense.
exactly.
Yeah.
I see it so many times though, where like the cars are piled up behind red, and they're honking, and I'm trying to figure out the reason. Are they pissed? I've actually seen a couple accidents here, unfortunately. So that's what
Oh,
happens there. Yeah, you have an accident, which is too bad. But I got another scenario here. So um, we got a couple cars. Bottom, the blue. So that's the lane to turn left, like into
like a
a
U-turn.
business. So it doesn't specify you can't do a U-turn, but it
Okay.
doesn't specify it's strictly for U-turn. And that bottom one, you're turning left into like a business park in the top there. And the red one, you can see also is a right turning lane. So in this situation, say blue has the green light and they're going to do a U-turn, but the red car takes a right onto the road. Who's at fault if they unfortunately,
U-turn. U-turn
get in
is
a little
the,
accident?
yeah,
Yeah.
to me, U-turn is
Yeah.
the least right of way out of anything, unless they're designated U-turn spots, in which case it's just a regular green light. You're acting like a green light. There are
Mhm.
some places on roads, everyone in the US has seen their road in their town that like everyone does a U-turn on and you know a U-turn's coming, especially if it's marked. But I think if it's a pretty unclear U-turn or kind of this wider berth you have to cover that isn't a normal U-turn spot, even if it's not marked as no U-turn. I think
Yeah.
U-turn is on the bottom of the totem pole for driving rights as far as
Yeah. Yeah.
like right of way goes. What do you think?
Okay. I would say yes, unless it's a U-turn only lane. So I've seen that before, especially in
Yeah.
Connecticut. So the
Yeah,
red
right. A
cars
U-turn
really
only
shouldn't be
lane,
going
then
too
it's
far.
marked that way very clearly, in which case they're just a regular car turning and you'd have to follow
Hmm.
yielding and stop
Yeah.
signs and the normal stuff. Yeah.
Well, cool.
Oh,
Yeah, I
those are
just want to get your advice, just because it's
those are
hard
good
to.
scenarios. Oh, there's so many
They
things.
are. They
To
are.
me, it's funny how little education you get in driver's ed or on the driver's test. They
Yeah.
really just say, go for it. Like, here are your keys. You can
Hmm.
parallel park. You're good to go. And then in some states, we're from Maine and we had to do a pretty comprehensive driver's exam. In some places, the driver's exam is in a closed parking lot. How does that make any sense? Like, not even on the real
Hmm.
road. And then you can go out and,
Yeah. Yeah.
cars are dangerous and big and,
Hmm.
that's a lot of power to give a 16-year-old. So I think it's good
Hmm.
to dissect some of these driving
Yeah.
situations.
Not to mention, there's a lot of moose on the road too. That's one thing I remember they
Yeah.
told us in driver's ed class in Maine, that if you see a moose in the road, you gotta like duck down below
Yeah.
what do you call the place where you keep your gloves, right? The glove
Yeah.
compartment,
Yeah.
like to duck down below there because their legs will come in inside. And,
Yeah,
did you know in 20?
Mythbusters did a little should you speed up or slow down? And I if I remember correctly, they
Mm,
found speed up if you're in a small low car, like
yeah,
picture like a Corvette shape of a car, something that looks like that. Speed up, and if you're in a bigger car, slow down because you're not going to be able to get the moose to launch over you, which would
yeah,
be an insane thing to like clip a moose's legs and
yeah,
it's like in the air going over you.
yeah. Good
Yeah.
call. And in 2023, there's 220 moose-related accidents in Maine. Just a
Wow.
little thought-provoking stat.
That is,
Yeah.
yeah. They in the moose signs in Maine that say moose crossing, they had put some up in common places where moose would cross the roads, but then they
Mm,
said, "Oh, we don't really need these. It's pretty rare moose crosses." And so they took them down. But then people complained they liked the moose crossing signs. It's almost this piece of
yeah,
tourism, and so they started putting up more even in places where they don't cross as much.
yeah. Did you
Yeah.
see a lot of moose back
I
in
saw
Maine? Did you see a
I
lot?
saw one. Yeah, growing up in Maine, I saw we
Okay.
were in a town growing up and we were not in the rural like farmland where you might see
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
especially north, but in a small southern Maine town. Yeah, I saw one time in our yard running around. Maybe he wanted some snacks. I don't know.
Mm, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. Did you eat moose growing up? Did
I
Mr.
never tried.
Manahan make
I ate some
moose?
venison, some deer. I've never tried moose. Have you?
We used to eat a lot of moose burger helper growing up.
Oh, burger.
A lot of moose growing up.
Uh,
Very, very
who
big
would catch
animals.
it? Your
But that's
uncle?
that's my dad's friend. He
Oh,
there's a lottery system for moose in Maine for like hunting them, and then it's like a cow, pretty much just put the whole like moose in the freezer
yeah.
and eat it. Yeah,
Is it
he
good?
used to eat
The
that all the time
burger?
growing up. Yeah, yeah, it's good. Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's. I kind of want to go back at one point, like the MythBusters thing.
Yeah.
What is one myth? Like the show I think is over now.
Yeah.
Like what's one myth you wish they kind of disproved or proved?
Oh.
I know that's a pretty thought-provoking one. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I don't know. I can't
Did
either.
they do the Did they do the 3 second rule, 5 second rule with food? I can't remember if they did that
I don't know
one.
if they did. I remember seeing a brain games about the 5 second
Mm,
rule, and it was more about the actual food itself, like a hard lollipop, that's sugar and that is hard and not super sticky, not going to pick up stuff. That's okay. Like if or a hard candy, if it falls on the floor, especially if it's not wet yet, it could kind of be on the floor forever and you could have it. But of course, Jello or a cake or something that falls on the floor, I mean, that's going to be nasty to scrape up. So I think I don't know if Mythbusters
yeah,
did it. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Um,
funny.
yeah. All right. I've got uh another one here. Bathroom mirrors. Not bathroom mirrors when you're washing your hands. Bathroom mirrors when you are using the bathroom. Some people put mirrors in the craziest places in the bathroom. When you're going pee as a guy, there are some mirrors that face right back at you, and you're just looking at yourself going to the bathroom. Where at my work, one of the bathrooms in the newer building, one of the entire walls is a mirror. So you're just sitting there, and then you look a little bit to your left, and the entire wall is a mirror, and you just see yourself like getting up, sitting down, using the bathroom. It's it's a pretty wild place to put a mirror. I don't know who approved it, who thought it would be like, I want to see
Yeah,
myself using the bathroom. I mean, have you encountered this? Have you seen these bathroom mirrors in weird places?
yeah, yeah. I kind of like the ones at urinals.
Yeah.
Like your face. It's just kind of something to look at instead of like the in between the bricks and stuff. Like what do you look at as a guy? When you use the urinal, it's nice to have the mirror. You can kind of like check your six just in case. But it's funny. I have a group chat with my friends from college, and the only thing we talk about is weird bathrooms, like weird bathroom
Yeah.
setups. There's actually one in San Diego at Balboa Park, I think. But uh, um, we went on spring break our senior year of college and to Texas, and the Airbnb had like a what do you call those mirrors that like 5 foot tall thin ones,
Like standing mirrors?
body mirrors,
Yeah.
something yeah, standing mirrors. Yeah, literally one. It was a very small bathroom, so you can imagine like a standing mirror right across from you when you're sitting on the toilet. And it was weird because like the toilet was elevated a little bit, so you look down in the mirror, or sorry, it was in the decline or something, so you could see everything. The mirror was like shining down on you. You could see everything. It's a very weird experience for sure to have that mirror so close
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah,
Everything. Yeah.
definitely. Oh, bathroom mirrors. That's funny. All right. I've got a couple more. Should I go for him?
Yeah. What do you got?
All right. Stale water. Stale drinking water.
Yeah.
It sounds goofy. It's real. Where is it?
Yeah.
I keep this mug next to my bedside table and I drink water from it. You know, sometimes you wake up and you've had salty food before bed and you're like, oh, I need a little water.
Hmm.
It's perfect, right? Little
Hmm.
bedside water. I went away for a week and I came back and it was half full, the cup. And I just took a little sip as I was walking in my bedroom. I was like, oh, I need a little water. And it was stale. The water had gone stale. It sits by a window that's open. I wonder if little dust comes in and joins the water
Yeah.
or what it is, but the water had gone stale. What do you
I
think?
don't know if that does that follow the definition of stale. I feel
Yeah,
like that's just old. The dust gets in there. I feel like that's just dusty water.
maybe it's just dusty
That's,
water.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
pine
yeah.
trees out my window, so maybe it's pine
Uh,
water.
when I think of stale, it's like a stale chip or something, right? Left on the
Yeah.
counter. But yeah, it does happen. It does if you leave a glass of water out
It gets a little
overnight.
funny. There's a taste. It's like the
Yeah,
air mixes with the
yeah,
water and you're drinking week old air water. I don't know.
yeah. When I was a kid, I used to do little science experiments like that.
Yeah.
Put ice cubes in a glass and leave them out overnight and drink that water. It was always disgusting. It was, I think, stale water.
Yeah.
So I agree with your point.
Yeah. And I don't
It's
think
a
it would
true
have
epidemic.
any harm medically. I just think that the taste has gone
No,
stale. Yeah.
yeah, it's skunked perhaps.
Skunked. Call it skunked
Skunk,
water. Yeah. A little
skunked water. Yeah,
squatchy. Maybe the water gets a little
yeah,
squatchy over time.
squanchy. Yeah, yeah,
Squatchy
yeah.
water.
Squatch hair in there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Um, Let's see. Okay, I want to tell a story about one of my students. He's a challenging student, good kid deep down, challenging third grader, challenging 9-year old, has a hard time focusing, a hard time with math, a hard time with writing. But he's a sweet kid and a good kid deep down. He has big reactions to injuries. So the kids, when they're playing their soccer at recess, if he gets touched, I've watched it happen. If he gets touched, and it's like it's as if he's lost his arm. Like he has really, really big reactions to physical pain. And he's gotten into a habit, which I only realized on Friday, a couple days ago, because I'm like, hey, this is a pattern. Every recess, every afternoon recess, there's a morning recess and afternoon recess. He right as we're getting in line about to go back to class, which is always math after recess, and he hates math, he has gotten into a habit of going to the nurse. So he will find any little thing to go to the nurse. He'll like trip himself and like hit his knee. "Ah, I gotta go to the nurse." And he's realized that this is an effective tool he has to get out of 5 to 10 minutes of math every single day. And it started as a genuine like injury once or twice, and then I think he realized, wait a second, I'm coming in late to math. This is great. What can I do? What can I do, Lucas? Because I can't really tell him like, oh, you can't go to the nurse if he's saying something really hurts and he fell. But also, I know I'm on to him. He's using this to get out of math. What do I do?
Yeah, I feel like that's really your job. I feel like the nurses have to be a little bit more stern. Like I feel like when we were
Turn him
growing
away
up,
at the
granted,
door?
yeah, it was only,
Yeah.
2 decades ago, but I feel like the nurses were much more stern
Yeah.
than we were. Yeah, I mean, I remember falling on the playground, getting like bruises and stuff, send me right back to class.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's not really your problem. I think you could have a conversation with those nurses. Tell them to tighten up a little bit and be more stern with this kid. Unless it's like compound fracture,
Yeah.
bone coming out of the skin, you gotta tell them, get back in there, get back in
Yeah.
math class.
I like it.
Uh, I
Elementary,
feel
yeah. I'm gonna have a little chat with the nurse. Say, turn this kid
not
away
too
unless
stern though. Yeah,
unless you
not
see
too
bones
stern.
sticking out. This kid's got to get turned away at the door.
Right.
I need him in math class. Yeah. All right. All right. Um. Okay, I've got another one. A question.
Mm.
Private beaches. Especially as a surfer, I hate private beaches. I think it is the most ridiculous thing. I think beaches are one of the most precious, awesome things that we have on Earth. They're beautiful. It's cool how they change over time. Of course, I surf and I love how some beaches have waves and the waves change over time. It's all fascinating. The sandbars, how in places that have winter with snow, you have like snow on the beaches, ice can form. It's just beaches are really, really cool, things on earth. And there are mostly public beaches, which is great. But even, semi-private, you have to pay to park, or the only public parking is a long way away, or there are total private beaches that are only owned by property owners in the area, which I think is ridiculous, or maybe the town owns them. So I think private beaches are a farce. I think they're ridiculous.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering what else is private that should absolutely be public.
People's yards. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, in Iceland or some Scandinavian country, you can
Yeah,
camp
yeah.
on people's property.
Um, I I I do. I think like some like hiking grounds, like when you're on a really nice trail, and some people have like private property, and like I know for a fact like they never use it. It's
Yeah.
just things like that. Maybe give it back to um the land. I'd say some areas in like wilderness areas like forests, there's some private land in like upstate New York. Um, some of the land, these owners they give it back and make it forever wild, and it's like public use, private public use. But there's also a lot of different areas that are private, no public use.
Mhm.
It's kind of like the same thing with beaches, like these mountainous areas. People don't really have it in their backyard. I feel like they
Yeah.
should make that public for us to use. I mean, what are you really going to be doing in a mountain unless you're like Doctor Evil making a layer in the mountain?
Yeah.
I feel like there's no use you'd get out of a mountain. Let the people use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes the other mountains that are public less traversed because their parking
Yeah.
lots would be
Spread it
backed up
out.
so much.
Spread it out. Yeah.
But I agree with that. Yeah, public beaches, you know,
Yeah. Private beach.
they're
What?
not accessible. Beaches in general
Yeah. I know.
aren't accessible to a
I
lot of
know.
people. So don't make them private, right?
Yeah.
That's like making a video game and only having like 60% of people can buy it in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Make it 100,
Everyone wants to
100%
play it.
accessible,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What have
Yeah.
you ever trespassed on a private beach?
Yeah. Yeah, I have for
Yeah,
sure to
to get
surf.
some waves.
Yeah. And
Any
there's
issues?
no, I've never had issues. During COVID, a lot of the beaches were locked down, but there was a weird time where like you could surf, but you couldn't go on the beach. And then there's also like, and that's the case at some private beaches too. So you can be in the ocean. So if you come in around the corner, so to speak, and you're coming in on a boat or paddling your surfboard, you can surf, but you just can't step foot on the sand, which is ridiculous, right?
That's so
So
weird.
there was a
How do you get
time
there? Yeah.
there was a time when I was during COVID, I was in southern Maine and we had a little May swell, I remember. And this was right when we had gone into the lockdown and we couldn't go on the beach. People were getting like shouted at by cops to get off the beach to go surf. But there's a waterway, a river that goes through jetties, and then you can go around the jetty, then you're at the beach. So I paddled. I parked at a different place we were allowed to park at, and then paddled all the way around and had a really fun surf all to myself because no one else did that. But that was a different time and a little different than private beaches. Yeah. All right.
Mm.
I've got one more.
Okay. I
The
think I
in,
have one more after yours. Yeah. Go
okay.
ahead.
The innate ambiguity of language is fascinating to me. So I speak Spanish and I'm interested in learning more languages. I love languages and the intricacies of them and the differences of them. And I'm always curious about how there are just moments of pure ambiguity, pure uh, indecision that you do not know. Are you referring to this? Are you referring to this? Like, even if you're using perfect grammar and contextually things make sense and you're talking, there are moments where just what you're saying is ambiguous. So this was one that I thought of, and maybe a true native Spanish speaker would know, but I had moved for like a government grant to Puebla, Mexico, and it was my first day there. I just arrived. I didn't know anyone, and I was in a cafe. I'm like, hey, this cafe looks cool. I'm just gonna sit here, and I was just sitting there. I think drinking a tea or something. I don't know. And somebody comes up and we start talking, and I say, "You are my first friend. Like, eres mi primer amigo." But it's hard because if you are a female, you would use like primera amiga, and then if you say first friend as in a male, it'd be like primer amigo. But in general, you use the male, the O in Spanish to refer to people generally. But there's ambiguity there because if I would have told her eres mi primera amiga, that would have been you're my first female friend very distinctly. But she would have been my first friend in general, not just my first female friend. So if I said eres mi primer amigo, it can also be more general, but it could also just be that first male friend, which to her might sound weird. She'd be like, wait, but I'm not a guy. And that was just an ambiguous moment I found. And there is probably one of those that sounds a little bit better, but it's a little bit ambiguous. And in English, we have those all the time of uh like you even can be ambiguous because you can be plural, like you all.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, "Hey, how have you been?" Talking to four people, and you're looking at all of them. Or you could say, "Hey, you need to do it," looking at two people, and you're like, "Which one? Which one is you? Is it both of us? Is it one of us?" So English is ambiguous. Spanish is ambiguous. Every language has ambiguities. What do you think about that?
I, I agree. A lot of ambiguous things in a lot of languages. I don't know if this would fall under like the ambiguous thing, but um, certain things like I ain't no way I don't need that thing.
Yeah.
Like in English like that, like double negatives, or I'm trying to think of one. Um, yeah, just like things like that, or like even like when we say like girlfriend, boyfriend, right? If a girlfriend says I have a
Yeah.
girlfriend, like it's just two words kind of compounded there, and it's kind of weird instead of saying like, it doesn't have any like romantic, implications when you
Yeah.
say that sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
weird.
I
Yeah.
hear it especially with women saying my girlfriends. Like I'm gonna go for
Yeah.
brunch with my
Yeah.
girlfriends. Yeah.
Yeah. But in,
Yeah.
in Spanish, though, if you said amiga de niña, right, that'd be like a small girl who is your friend, compared to novia, right? It's kind of weird how
Wait,
like it
well,
doesn't translate like amiga de niña, right? Is that right? Would
amiga
you
de
say
niña
that?
is like a friend of girl. It's like es
A
la
friend.
amiga de una niña would be like it's the friend of a
Okay.
girl. Um
What about amiga niña? Would that be like a small child friend? No.
yeah. Like es mi
Okay. Yeah.
amiga.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's like the direct one-to-one translation, right, to girlfriend. But they have,
Yeah.
this in
Yeah, so
Spanish. There's a different word
Spanish, and
for
that's the
it.
difference. Some things are ambiguous in some languages that are not ambiguous in other languages. So
Yeah.
there, you don't have the girlfriend problem in Spanish because novia is my girlfriend, and then like
Yeah.
mi amiga with an A is a female friend. So there's no ambiguity. Just like the you example I gave of you all versus
Mm.
you. If you just say, "Hey, can you do it?" and you're talking to two people and you're looking at one, it's like, wait, who's gonna do it? Because you can be plural, it can be
Yeah. Yeah.
singular. You don't have that problem in Spanish either, because like tú or usted or vos is going to be one person, and then ustedes or
Mm.
vosotros or whatever will be more than one person. So that's also an ambiguity that doesn't exist. But there's other. That's what's cool about languages. Every language has different
Yeah.
ambiguities that are solved with the structure or whatever in one language that aren't solved in another one. But
Yeah.
I
Would
liked
you
your
say
example.
English has? Would you say English has more
I don't know. I don't know.
ambiguities?
I
Yeah.
don't. I don't
Okay.
speak enough languages to know
Yeah.
like the
Yeah. Yeah.
ranking. I hear
Right.
them
Right.
both pretty commonly, where there's like little subtle ambiguous situations in both languages
Hmm.
that are mostly solved through context, but sometimes they're not, and sometimes they're
Yeah. Yeah.
truly hard to know exactly the meaning.
Who would you say like was teaching you these ambiguous things when you were learning Spanish? Did
They
like
just
people just
happen.
brush it aside? It
No,
just
they just
happened.
happen. Yeah, as you
Okay.
learn, and sometimes you might not know a certain word or a better way to say something that would solve that ambiguity,
Hmm.
but they just occur naturally, which is what's
Yeah.
interesting to me about them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Um,
I wish I had some people like that kind of like worked through that ambiguity with me. Down when I lived in Georgia, I tried to try my best to learn Spanish, and I would practice with one guy on the floor, and I would say just so many stupid things. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Like Amina de Niga, I would say that. He's like, "Oh yeah, good." He's a girlfriend. Yep. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want anything to do with me. He
yeah,
just brushed it
no,
aside.
it's a complicated thing. I think in the US with Spanish especially, there's this idea that like the immigrant doesn't belong, or that like we speak American here, we speak English. And so I think that if you grow up with that energy of your language is bad or something along those lines, then when someone comes in and tries to speak it with you, it's like you've already learned, hey, I'm not really trying to interact with people outside of my own culture in this language. And I think that happens sometimes. It's very case by case. There are some people. There's a
Yeah.
teacher I work with, and he loves that I speak Spanish, and I use Spanish with my kids. I'm certified in it for teaching, but he loves that I speak it. So he'll only speak to me in Spanish. He's like, it's just awesome. You've like learned it and lived in these countries. But then there's other people where they're like, you could speak Spanish to them, they have no interest, and it's almost like rude if you're trying to speak it to them and they're showing you they
Mhm.
don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard
Yeah.
because everybody's a little different with that, and I think it's just about knowing the individual and respecting that. And it's a good rule of thumb to, just because you know someone speaks it or you hear their accent and you know they speak it, to not
Mhm.
just speak it because they might
Right.
they
Right.
might
Yeah.
respond like, hey dude, like I don't really
Yeah.
want to
Of
speak it
course. Of
with you.
course. Yeah.
But sometimes they do, so it's just about knowing the person. um I have another one.
Okay. Let's hear it.
This is a saying I thought of. Flip a coin and ignore the result.
Then why
Like, hey,
flip a coin, right?
let's flip a coin, then ignore the result. Because so often when you're flipping a coin, when it's in the air, you know what you want between two
Mhm.
options, I think. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, hey, I could just flip a coin and then ignore the result. But you got any
Yeah.
more?
I had a couple little ones I just kind of thought of on the fly.
Yeah.
Um, you remember Sigmund Freud, right? The interpretation of dreams.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like if dreams are actually like manifested things from our living life?
Scientific American has been publishing articles. I love Scientific American about dreams and why we sleep and why we
Hmm.
dream. And they're in recent years, they've been making more true scientific discoveries, not like postulating ideas about sleep and about what dreams are. And it seems like it's memory. It's for like memory storage. Now, are they real? All the kind of almost like the spiritual side of dreams. I think. I don't know. I have no idea. I think that they are a combination of memories and your brain reasoning and making sense of things. But they're really cool. I dream every night and I love
There.
dreaming. And
Yeah,
sometimes they're
it's
weird
it's
and sometimes they're boring. Sometimes I'm like at the grocery store, just like, oh, tomato soup, and then
yeah,
I push my oh, it's chicken noodle soup. Oh, I need
yeah.
flour. Let me go find flour. And then sometimes there are like these
Yeah.
crazy things happening. How about you? What do you think?
I agree with everything you said. Do you ever dream? Like I personally dream of like work, like
Yeah,
work
all the
feeling
time,
pretty,
all the
pretty,
time.
pretty mundane
Yeah.
and boring. I dream about boring things, and actually, I don't know if you've had this experience, but dreaming and actually solving a problem you've been having at work in your dream, and then recalling it the next morning. It's pretty cool when that happens.
Yeah.
It's very rare. I probably had that happen 2 or 3 times in my life, but it's always pretty enjoyable like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No,
I
dreams
actually,
are really cool. Absolutely. All right. Well,
yeah,
thanks for listening. This has been the first episode of Forgotten Jelly.
forgotten jelly.
Yeah. All right.